All right, let's jump into something loads of cyclists think about when they're training for a big event.
Yeah.
You've signed up for that big fondo, maybe a multi-day thing, and you hit that big question: should I be hammering speed work or just grinding out massive miles? Speed versus distance. What's actually more important for endurance?
Yeah, it's a real conflict people feel, right? You see advice pointing both ways. Some coaches are all about intensity, others just say volume, volume, volume. Kind of feels like you've got to pick one side.
Exactly. And we've actually got some really interesting source material here that digs right into this. These articles, some research bits, they really help clarify what speed does, what distance does. So our mission today in this deep dive is to sort of cut through that confusion, look at what these sources say is essential, and help you figure out your own balance for that big ride.
Okay. And what the material makes, well, really clear is that for building proper cycling endurance, you absolutely need that big aerobic base. And that comes from the long, steady rides, the sources. They're pretty much unanimous. Distance is your foundation, non-negotiable.
Okay, so distance comes first,
Mm.
foundational. Got it. But the sources don't just say only do long, slow rides, do they? They mention speed work, too.
Precisely. Yeah, distance is the base, but speed work, that's vital for like efficiency and actual performance on top of the base you've built. When the sources talk speed, they mean higher intensity stuff, tempo, threshold work, maybe even some short, sharp HIA sessions.
Right. And what does that faster training actually do for someone aiming for endurance? I mean, why bother if the event itself is long and mostly steady?
Well, it basically makes your whole system tougher, more efficient when you do have to put out more power. This research we looked at says it boosts things like your lactate threshold, your VO2 max. Think of it like upgrading your engine, making it burn fuel better when you rev it high. So when you're riding for hours, you can hold a faster pace, but it feels, relatively speaking, easier.
Okay. So doing speed work makes the pace you hold for, say, 8 hours feel less taxing.
Exactly that. Yeah, it lifts your ceiling. Plus, the sources also mention how these efforts build strength in those key cycling muscles, and they improve your pedaling economy, maybe even help refine your position when you're pushing harder. It just adds another gear.
Okay, that makes sense. But if speed work is so beneficial, why isn't it the main thing? Why are the sources so insistent that distance is the absolute foundation?
Because endurance, well, the clue's in the name, right? It's about sustaining effort for a long, long time, often at intensities that aren't flat out. Those long rides could be a few hours, could be many. That's where your body really learns, fundamentally, how to handle prolonged work.
And what are those fundamental adaptations we get from the long miles? According to the sources, what's happening?
The material really stresses building that aerobic engine, teaching your body to get super efficient with oxygen, and crucially, teaching it to burn fat really well for fuel over many hours. That spares your limited carb stores, your glycogen for when you need a harder push. It's about more mitochondria, denser capillaries in the muscles, literally building the endurance machinery at a cellular level.
And it trains your head too, right?
Yeah.
And just your body for the sheer time in the saddle. Pacing becomes more instinctive. You get to practice your food and drink strategy when you're properly tired. Test your bike setup. Finding out your saddle's wrong 80 miles into a 100-mile ride is not ideal.
Oh, definitely not. So yeah, you absolutely need both. And the sources actually give a pretty clear guideline on the balance, often called the 75% rule.
Okay, the magic ratio. So what's the breakdown there?
Based on these sources, it looks like about 75%, three-quarters of your actual training time should be at that lower intensity, the bread and butter aerobic miles. That's building the deep base we talked about.
Okay, 75% low intensity,
Hmm.
which leaves 25% for the harder stuff.
Correct. That last quarter is where you slot in your quality speed work sessions. And according to this material, that split gives endurance riders the best bang for their buck. The big chunk builds that essential capacity. And the focused high-intensity stuff, that adds the speed and power without totally wrecking you or messing up recovery from the base work.
So it really paints a clear picture then. For endurance events, the sources are saying distance training is absolutely number one, the cornerstone. It builds the capacity to ride long. Speed work is vital, makes you faster and more efficient during those hours, but it really sits on top of that aerobic base. Supports it, doesn't replace it.
Spot on. It's not an either-or. It's about proportion. Build the big all-day engine with those lower intensity miles, then add the turbocharger, if you like, with focused, harder sessions. The sources seem to suggest maybe 1 or 2 quality speed sessions a week alongside your key longer rides. Gets that blend right.
So the main takeaway from digging into this material, endurance cycling training needs that blend. Priority one is foundational distance, Then you strategically add speed to boost efficiency within that endurance.
Right. The bulk of your time is that lower intensity volume. The sharper, harder work is the essential top-up.
Okay, so here's something to think about then. Considering these sources strongly point towards that, say 75% low intensity, 25% high intensity split, how does that specific ratio sit with your own ideas about building endurance? Does it challenge what you thought, or does it confirm it? And maybe more practically, how could you use that kind of balance to structure your own training in the coming weeks as you prep for that event? Definitely some food for thought there.